Hey, friends, welcome back to Her Faith at Work. I'm so glad that you chose to join us today for this episode. And I'm just going to give you a little bit of a heads up that in this episode, I'm probably going to be in all the feels, all the feels. So that is not typical for me, but it's just the time of year. And you'll understand a little bit more as we get into the podcast material today. But today we're going to talk about leaving a legacy. So let's jump in.
Truth time. When's the last time you raised your hands for a swift kick in the pants? Well, I'm the no-nonsense type friend who's going to tell you when you have food in your teeth. So, let's get right to it. This is your infusion of sacred and secular, calling you higher into who God created you to be, how intimately faith applies to every part of your life, and how you can live that faith walk every single day in the marketplace. I've felt the tension of separation of church and state. I've been one of a few women at a table of men for decades, and I've stood my ground. Are you ready to do the same? These tools, resources, and interviews are meant to do just that. I'm Jan Touchberry, and it's time to share Her Faith at Work.
The month of April is a special month for me. April 21st of 2022, my mom passed away. And it was unexpected, and having never gone through the process of losing a parent before, you just don't know what to expect. And I mean, the understatement of the century is it's a lot. It's a lot, y'all. And as you know, the first anniversary of her death passed, and working through that first year of really the grieving process, looking back at moments and memories and pictures and listening to old voice messages and things that we were able to take from her home as, remembrances of her, I really came to see what a legacy this woman left to not only me and to the other members of my family, but to the world. And that's the kind of legacy I want to leave. I hope that you want to leave that kind of legacy too. I don't consider myself a typically overly sentimental person in that things are sentimental to me. My husband, on the other hand, is very sentimental when it comes to items. They really evoke memories and things, and neither is right or wrong. It's just how we were wired by the Lord, right? So things are not really as important to me as, the things that I took from my mom's home to remember her by are minimal. I didn't feel the need to grab all of her stuff to have everything. Um, what I did do is I went through my phone and I saved every single voice message that I had from her. Um, I haven't made my way through all of them, but I've made the practice every year on the anniversary of her death to go and listen through a few. It took me a whole year to be able to do that. But at this point, it's just comforting, and it makes me smile, and it brings back so many memories to listen through some of the voice messages that she left to me. But one of the things that I did take from her home is a devotional. Actually, I think I have a couple of them, but the one that I'm really referring to is an A.W. Tozer devotional that I have started working through. It's a daily devotional, and so I've gone through it a couple of times now since it's been 2 years since she passed. And my mom had a habit of writing notes. Like, she was a consummate writer. She should have written a book probably. But inside this devotional, and I remember her Bible is the same way. She would write notes and thoughts. And so I get to go through as I'm looking at this devotional on a daily basis, and there's just these little nuggets or thoughts that she would have, or prayers that she would write, or memories or things that she wanted to remember on a particular day. And it's just such a window into who she was as a person. And I realize as I'm going through this, not only did did she do this on such a regular basis that at some point in my life, or points in my life, it made such an impression on me that I do it too. I do it too. I find myself underlining and taking notes on certain pages in my Bible and in books. And that's a legacy that she left for me. But also, as I'm looking through this, the theme of her life really has popped out to me on the pages. She was a woman of prayer. She prayed for her children. She prayed for people around her. She prayed for missionaries. And it's reflected on the pages of this book. She was a giving person. She has several different points in this book where she writes little memories to herself, or I mean, I assume to herself. She was making notes. Toward the end of her life, she felt like she was losing the ability to remember things. And so we found when she passed away that she had started writing a lot down. And so I think maybe these were just memory joggers for her, but she would write down different things that the Lord would have her do for other people, giving to specific missionaries or to people down the street. She loved the people in her neighborhood. She lived in a very low income neighborhood. And my mom was on a very fixed income. And so she did not have a lot of money, but what she had, she gave. And the Lord took care of her. She was never lacking, not ever. She would be given gifts, or someone would pay for tires at the Firestone when she didn't know how she was going to come up with money to replace her tires. And that's because of the legacy that she left. I believe that the Lord honored that and gifted her because she was building such a legacy as being a prayer warrior and a giver. She talked to everyone about Jesus. If you were around my mom for 5 minutes, you were hearing about Jesus and his impact on her life and how he could be an impact on your life. And that's a legacy that she left. I think so many times people, when you hear the word legacy, you automatically, most of the time, I think that people automatically think about money or wealth. If you look up the definition of legacy, it does refer to money or property that was left to someone. But the second definition of that is also the character qualities and characteristics and values that are left behind with the people that you had an impact on. A person's legacy really not only refers to the richness of their life in money, but also accomplishments and how they impacted people and places, the lessons that they learned, what was important to them. It's how you're going to be remembered. What did you leave behind? What kind of positive impact did you have on other people? That's your legacy. And I feel like so many times we stop at the money piece. The Bible. The Bible has things to say about legacy, right? But in the book of Proverbs, it does talk about leaving money as a gift or a legacy for your children and your children's children. But then in Matthew, it talks about not storing up your treasures on earth, but storing up your treasures in heaven. And I think that that speaks to leaving a legacy of faith to people. So not worrying about so much the money, but sowing everything else that you have that God has gifted you with in your life, and sowing him into every area of your life. And how does that work itself out inside your home with your children, with your grandchildren? How does it work itself out with the people that you work with? How does it work itself out in your business? How does it work itself out with your friend group? The possibilities are literally endless. How does it work itself out with strangers that God brings along your path? That happened all the time with my mom, all the time. I remember there was a time where I was visiting her and she had to go to the bank and get $40 because she needed the $40 for something, and she had already gone to the bank and gotten it, but she came across this man in a parking lot who was in need, and all he needed was $40, and she happened to have $40 in her purse. And so she gave it to him and said, "This is a gift from Jesus. He loves you, he sees you, and he wants to provide for you." And just part of the legacy that my mom left. I know that at her memorial service, that people from her neighborhood came and talked about the legacy that she left as someone who cared for them, who cared not only for them physically by giving and by providing for them, by babysitting their kids, but by caring for them spiritually and letting them know who Jesus is and how they matter to him. And so really legacy it encompasses so much. I think it's important when we're talking about leaving a legacy to talk about why it's important to human beings to leave a legacy. Like, why does it even matter to us? Well, we all want to be remembered. We want to feel important. We want to feel like our life mattered. We want to feel like we make a difference. We want to feel like our life meant something. And that's not wrong. I think the Lord wants us to have a legacy. He's put gifts and talents and abilities in our lives. And if we're not using them, that's going against, I mean, that's the opposite of leaving a legacy, right? But I think he's gifted us in these ways so that we can leave a legacy to those around us, so that we can leave an impression on the world. As human beings, I think we often really long to make a connection to something bigger than we are, to something that will endure past ourselves, right? A lasting legacy really captures some meaningful aspect of our unique presence here on earth and preserves it for the benefit of those who will be here after us, whether it's through work or through family or through your community. We all have an opportunity to leave that one of a kind mark on the earth. So, how do we leave a legacy that we're proud of? How do we leave a legacy that's lasting? It's a really great question, one that I ponder. I hope that I'm doing a good job. The reality is that we're all leaving some sort of legacy, whether it's a good one or whether it's not a good one. You're leaving some sort of legacy. I mean, there are people throughout history that have left a legacy that are horrible, but they're lasting legacies. That's not what I want to be remembered for. I want to be remembered for changing lives and bringing people to Jesus. And I think people can struggle with how to do that, where to start. How do you know if you're doing the things that you need to do in order to leave a legacy that lasts? It's a really good question. So, being the researcher that I am, I did a little digging for you. You're welcome. Actually, I did a little digging for us because I'm preaching to the choir, as with most of the things that you'll find on this podcast. It's important to be a lifelong learner. I think one of the most important things that you can do to leave a legacy is to build relationships, whether that's relationships with your family or friends, or you're in your community or in your business. Building relationships with people absolutely opens a door for you to have a lasting impact on others. And I think that can happen, in a family. Obviously, the relationship dynamic is different, but from a business owner standpoint, it can take the form of leadership or mentorship. And I think that that does play a part in leaving a legacy, at least a legacy that is well-rounded. It doesn't have to be in a business sense that you're mentoring or you're leading others. It could be in a volunteer sense at church or at work or in other areas of your life with other moms, with other empty nesters. I mean, fill in the blanks, y'all. There is opportunity to come alongside someone and build into their life through mentorship or through leadership that plays into building the legacy that you're going to leave, and eventually that you'll be remembered for. At least I hope I will be remembered for. Another really impactful way to leave a legacy is your contribution to society, making a positive impact. And there are so many ways that we can make a positive impact on society, especially as entrepreneurs. I mean, think about the power that we have at our disposal as business owners, and income generators, to be able to use those gifts and abilities that God's given us then and philanthropically drive social change and leave a lasting legacy. Some call it social entrepreneurship. And y'all, this podcast was started as a way to create legacy. I believe that the Lord gave me a vision, and you're going to be hearing more about this in the coming weeks, but to rally business owners, entrepreneurs, people who have the gift of generating income and turning that into a way to sow into other businesses and nonprofits and organizations. Specifically for the Her Faith at Work community, we're going to be highlighting nonprofits, and we turn that into a mechanism for social change. That is leaving a legacy. And you can also do that through advocacy and activism. Any of you Enneagram 8s out there are totally going to be on board with this. Like, social justice is such a thing for us, right? And the Lord puts ministries and wrongs in the world on your heart. If He does that, it's because He wants you to do something about it. That is part of your legacy. Are you going to do something about it? Are you going to affect change? Or are you going to sit and do nothing and let it pass you by? Because that's part of your legacy too. So what's a girl to do? How do you know if you are leaving a legacy that you can be proud of? How do you know? How can you know if you're leaving a legacy that is going to last past one generation? I mean, I would love to think that the Lord has such big plans for all of us that the impact that we create here on earth leaves such a void when we're gone that it is compelling to those around us, those who've known us, those who've been affected by the legacy that we leave, that they have to pick up the ball and continue that legacy that we started. How do we do that? Well, I'm glad you asked. There are actually some tools that you can use, some tips, some processes that you can use to create a personal legacy plan. And most of those start with knowing what you want your legacy to be. How do I go about doing that? Well, this would be my suggestion to you. And I will also take this as a suggestion for myself, again, preaching to the choir. Get quiet with the Lord. Ask Him what He wants your legacy to be. Ask Him what He's trying to build through you here on this earth at this time and for the future. Have a pen and a paper and journal what you hear. I think when you're having those times with the Lord, it's really important that you not edit yourself. Don't edit what you're writing. Just literally write down everything that comes to your mind, and then you go back and you look at what the Lord spoke to you during that time. After you know kind of what you want your legacy to be, what God is trying to sow into your spirit for your legacy to be, you can start living in the way that you want to be remembered. And let me tell you, if you're thinking to yourself, well, it's a little late for me. It's not. You're not late to the party. Start today. Start today. The Bible says His mercies are new every morning. There's grace for you. Start living in the way that you want to be remembered today. Start creating that legacy today. Knowing what you want your legacy to be is going to allow you to make better use of your time. It's going to allow you to make better uses of your resources. It's going to allow you to hopefully start putting some habits and processes in your life that are going to allow you to start living out that legacy. You're going to be able to gain clarity on what you need in order to start living that life of meaning and purpose. It's going to enable you to allow the legacy that you're building to determine how you show up in the world every single day. And you're going to live your life as if you matter, as if what you're doing matters, because it does. It does. One of the resources that I found, and I can link it in the show notes, has 7 ways to identify a legacy that you're going to leave behind after you're no longer here. And one of the things that it says is, what's your verse going to be? So anyone who knows me well knows that my life verse is John 3:30. He must increase, I must decrease. I hope that after I'm gone, people can say that I lived life that way. that it wasn't about me putting myself forward. It was always about me putting Christ forward. It's Christ in me. What will your verse be? Another thing that this site said to do is picture your 80th birthday party. Some people say, imagine your funeral and what people are going to say at your funeral, which I think is a good tool if you want to be that macabre about it. But picturing your 80th birthday party is so much more, it has levity to it. It's not so deep and dark. But everyone that you've had an impact on or have influenced in some way is there. And they get up to toast you on your birthday. What would you want them to say about you? What would you want your life to stand for? That happened on my mom's 80th birthday. The room was full of people from her church, people from the community, people from all over the place, people like all of the children flew in from the various parts of the country. We were all there. The grandchildren were there. The great-grandchildren were there. And that says so much about the legacy that my mom left. So picture your 80th birthday party. I think that's a fun way to do it. So leaving a legacy. I found 10 questions that you can ask yourself to help you identify the legacy that you want to leave. I will put these in the show notes so you can go back easily. You don't have to go back and listen, but I'll just leave these so you can maybe copy and paste them onto a note in your phone or on your computer, or just copy them down into your journal. But number 1, what do you want your life to stand for? Number 2, how do you want to be remembered by your friends and family? Number 3, what will those beyond your circle of friends and family remember you for? Number 4, what kind of impact do you want to have on your community? Number 5, how will the world be a better place because you were in it? Number 6, what contributions do you want to make to your field, to your business? Number 7, whose lives will you have touched? Number 8, what lessons would you like to pass on to future generations? That's such a good one. Number 9, what do you want to leave behind? And number 10, how can you serve? How can you serve? So I struggled a little bit with how to end such a heavy podcast. And I stumbled across a quote by the Reverend Billy Graham. And it says this: our days are numbered. One of the primary goals in our lives should be to prepare for our last day. The legacy we leave is not just in our possessions, but in the quality of our lives. What preparations should we be making now? The greatest waste in all of our earth, which cannot be recycled or reclaimed, is our waste of the time that God has given us each and every day. Thank you, Dr. Graham, for that reminder. We're not promised tomorrow. What are you doing today to leave a legacy that will last and that will affect change in the generations that are here now and the generations that are to come?
Thanks for joining me for another episode of Her Faith at Work. If the Lord put someone on your heart that you think needs to hear this message today, will you just smash that share button? And if you haven't already followed the show, I would love for you to do that. Super extra points if you hop over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. That helps the algorithm pick us up and drop us right in the AirPods of people that need to hear what the Lord is saying to them today. I hope you'll come back for the next episode of Her Faith at Work. The podcast comes out every Wednesday. And if you look down in the show notes, I've even got a couple of free downloads for you that I think you will really enjoy. With that, have a great week. See you next time.